live here in just a second. Yep, there it is. All right, and the counter's going. So we're live, it's recording, and we're on the air. And as everybody watching knows, I'm Rogue Nation, majorly awesome. And this gentleman here is my guest tonight. I call him Richard because I'm terrible at pronouncing names and I don't want to mess that up. But he's a great guy. Had a great conversation with him the other day. I think we talked for like what, an hour and a half. I mean, I lost track of time. It flowed so naturally. I was like, man, my wife was like, "Are you finally off the phone?" I'm like, uh, maybe.
No, I do talk sometimes.
So, and you are the city from, yeah, you're from New Jersey. What's the name of the town again?
Edison
Edison, is that
Township,
correct?
right?
Edison, New Jersey.
Yes, and I'm a councilman in
Okay,
Edison.
great, excellent. And of course, everybody's been seeing on the news and on YouTube, some stuff that's been going on in Edison. I even covered a news story where there was an incident there with the police chief. So,
Oh yes,
hopefully, maybe we got some information about that. Because I remember us talking a little bit about it, but I don't think we got into much about it now. If I'm remembering correctly, there were supposed threats to the mayor. Is that what that entailed? And he was asking for more money or something for more officers? Or?
so our mayor, since he got in office, has stated that he had threats against him, right? And you got to understand, we're a town, right, in America. President, I get, right? He's doing national things and affecting people's lives in ways. But your local mayor, no one really understands. No other mayor around here has police protection with him everywhere he goes. But our mayor went, the culmination of it was the chief said that they had credible threats. Um, but the fact of the matter is, actually, in one of our schools, there was a credible threat. And the police force was able to team up with Google, track it down, and catch the person. So I know they have the ability, but this is a mayor that just wants an entourage. Um, and I never complained until he took 4 officers for 4 days to the DNC convention, where Harris would have had Secret Service, CIA, FBI, you know, and I call that theft of service, and I confronted the chief about it because the mayor doesn't come to a meeting, and the chief lost it. He said, "Are you saying I'm stealing?" I said, "You're stealing or the mayor's stealing. Somebody stole from the public. Not sure who, but the money's not been paid back yet." So, but with this mayor, and he has 4 council people, you can't get anything done. And it's what led to this problem we just have with the flag. Um, it's his way or the highway. It's one of those towns at the present time. So, I'm kind of hoping come 2025, we change that in Edison.
Hang on one second. I'm going to relocate. I'm on a laptop, but I'm getting bad Wi-Fi signal here. So
Okay.
let me move it here into the layer, and it flows a little bit better. I think maybe it won't affect the. There we go. So yeah, let me move around here and come out here so I can get a better signal. Ember, I'm gonna have to sit out here and do my interview. So turn that off, baby, and watch that in your room if you would. You can. Will you get me the laptop charger? Thank you. Whew. Oh, sorry about that, Richard.
Nah, no problem.
Yeah, sometimes my Wi-Fi signal's not as good as it should be in the room. I don't know what that deal is. I mean, we pay enough for it, but you know, who
Well,
knows?
listen, we always had problems until they pulled the new fiber into the town, and after that, it's been really good here.
Yeah, so now it's just trying to get this virtual background here working right. Maybe it won't. I'll just take that off. Let me take that off, or else we won't be able to see me. No. All right, that's better. Yeah, plug that in for me, baby. Thank you. All right, much better. Now it's not bouncing all around.
Okay.
All right, so yeah, so to get back to that, what is a credible threat? Like, is there any documentation of this credible threat? Like you said before, when there was a credible threat at the school, they were able to get on it and knock it out, and take care of it like that. So I'm unsure.
I'll tell you what I believe it is. Okay. Um, we have a guy that he fights for the First Amendment, Jersey Watcher, and in one of the videos he did one time, there was a gun on the screen, and it said, "If you like this, hit the like button," and the gun fired into the like button. And I had another elected official here in Middlesex County that told me, that was a threat. And I'm going, I even know that it's a video, right? But then what happens from some of these videos is people call from around the country, very angry, over what elected officials are doing. Um, some of them are graphic and vulgar, but for the most part, if something's out of hand, I look at it, and if someone's from Nevada, we're here in New Jersey. I'm not looking at it like this is an actual credible threat. Um, but I guess our chief does, and he provides the mayor with police protection. I say he's actually providing them with friends, paid friends, is what he's getting.
Yeah, it's funny because there's another mayor that a lot of people online know of, Tiffany Henyard, out of Dalton, Illinois, and she started doing the same thing with the police, having an entourage of police, like she was Beyonce or something, and
Yes.
and she was flying them out to Vegas. They were going out there for these seminars. Um, and from what I understand, the seminar was about strip malls. Something to do with like strip malls or something like that. And the guy reporting it was like, "What in the heck is this got to do with the city business?" And while they were out there, they were eating at Ruth Chris Steakhouse and spending six, seven, $800 on a dinner, and her and the boys, and I don't want to be or sound cold hearted, Richard, but like you said, you're a mayor, right? If something, God forbid, if something was to happen, anybody just about could step in and fill your shoes, right? You're not talking about the president. You're not
No.
talking about Stephen Hawking's, right? Like
Oh.
you're a mayor, right? And quite possibly a bad one at that. I don't know. I haven't looked into them, but I mean, even if you're the best mayor in the world, I mean, you're still replaceable, right? So, unfortunately, and again, not to sound like cold-hearted, but I mean, these are the responsibilities of the job. I mean, look at Uber drivers and cab drivers. They're one of the most used violence upon professions. I mean, these guys go out and drive cabs and they get killed all the time. I don't see any of them hiring private bodyguards, you
Well,
know?
if they hired them for their own protection, I have no problem with it. The
Sure,
problem I have is that these are taxpayer funds.
of
Um,
course.
you know,
So we're hiring them.
Yes, yes,
Me and
we
you are paying for the mayor, right? I don't like the mayor that much. I don't want to pay for his bodyguards. um, so okay, so that was one of the issues, and I know Christo, Jersey Watcher, is from that area, and he does a lot of reporting on Edison and such like that. We've seen the videos, so I know there were some issues there with the flag. There was also I don't know, maybe some issues with free speech at the council meetings. What else are we
uh,
looking at there that we need to really address?
they've awarded contracts, typically, and then people are getting positions from these. You have there's the sexual assault allegation against them,
The
and I only
mayor.
yes, and I only say it's an allegation because he wasn't convicted. And I'll be honest with you, I have a big problem, and I've been telling fellow Democrats this. Like we had a woman running for governor here. She's running for governor now, and it was Mickey Sherrill, right? She's congresswoman, and she was on TV trashing, Donald Trump and the Republican Party for supposedly putting someone in that assaulted women. And I came out in an article and I said the hypocrisy is that she was in pictures with my mayor, who has the exact same, sexual assault things against him.
Right, the
Um,
same charges, yeah.
right, and so where I go with it is, I mean, right or left, right? It's only about at least being solid, and not being hypocritical in life. And I believe
Right.
that good Democrats or good Republicans can't call out those on their own side that are doing wrong, right? Then we do have a problem as a nation, if we're covering up for our own. But that's a pretty big thing that's kind of out there on them that we have. We have a list. We put together a list of, I'd say it's 40 items, that are kind of egregious in different ways. Um, he wanted to buy a piece of property, which sounds like a good thing, right? But
Right.
the property had a lot of legal issues with it that once we went to close, now we're sued. So we can't even do anything with the property. And, it seems apparent that he knew, the lawyer knew, and yet we still closed on it. That's in litigation right now. So far, he had a woman fired at a library when he was a councilman. That cost us $1 million settlement. He didn't promote, I think it was a black police officer woman, and she sued and they settled with her. Didn't even go to court, didn't even file anything. They settled, I heard, for $100,000. And now I have I think it's a black fireman, and he's suing. There's his ex chief of staff that's suing. In his 4 years, he's going to amount to probably $2 to $3 million in litigation fees.
Just for the city, yeah.
Right, and these are things. These are what I will call a blunder. Just like the flag, it just shows like poor judgment, poor moral character, and it's just over and over and over. He's like systemic in it. Um,
Let me ask you this, Richard. Is that prop thing, was that because of the gentleman that came there dressed in costumes? I believe one came as a bong and he had a baby bong with him or whatever. I saw that video. Is because there wasn't a prop thing before that, correct? It was
so
only
yeah, right. So I'll tell you what's happened was Jersey Watcher has come, and he has just tested the limits of your rights that you're given as an American.
right.
One time he came and he cursed in the meeting, and they threw him out. And then he came in with a sign, and they threw him out. But then there's other like First Amendment people, and they came in with a sign, and the council recognized that they sued and won in different townships, and they did not remove that gentleman because they knew that they would sue. Now, Christo, they know that he can't sue. They've charged him 6 or 7 times or something with some ridiculous charges. Um,
Probably
that
something like disorderly conduct or interfering with
no,
government affairs or something.
no, the poor guy was doing videos and he did like a catch a predator video,
Uh huh.
and they arrested him for kidnapping the predator. Uh, the predator then, I think, I think I heard this right, was that the predator guy then committed suicide. The guy that they didn't charge it with kidnapping or anything that was with him, that guy actually did catch a predator up in North Jersey, which was like a fire chief or something. But
Wow.
they went after Christo, dragged him through the court system, you know. But at the end of the day, it's all on tape, right? It's all on video. So a judge even has to acknowledge that this didn't take place, but they did that to tie up his ability to film.
Yep.
Uh,
His money, his time. A lot of people, a lot of activists, and a lot of people that support activists will a lot of times mistakenly believe that we have to get arrested in order to enforce our rights. And I tell people, I said that's the worst thing you can do, because that's exactly what the system wants you to do, because now they've got you right where they want you. They can tell you whatever they want in the court system. And you know it's not just corruption among the small fry. It's corruption all the way up the chain of the ladder. I mean, I just did a story a couple of I don't know, maybe a couple months ago. There was a state attorney here in Florida who had through one of the local lawyers had gotten elected. He had gotten his campaign financed by this lawyer through his rich buddies. And so once he got in the office, he says, "Well, this lawyer came to me and he starts wanting favors, and
yeah,
these are favors like getting a lady who was accused of murder probation. I mean, like crazy stuff." And the state attorney said, this guy would just not stop. He was relentless. He said, favor, favor, favor. And he goes, "I know if I didn't provide that," he goes, "the next election I'd be out on my butt." And sure enough, they both got caught. They both ended up doing minimal a time in jail. But it's more prevalent, I think, than people realize. So putting yourself behind the eight ball and allowing the government to decide if you've done something wrong, it's not always going to work out.
well, I'll tell you. So when they couldn't, when Krista was beating those cases, and he got his ability to film again, he came back to a meeting, and again they went to shut him down. And then some people that were out there supporting them went and pushed it, and we had Bong Holio with the baby Bong, and they sang at the meeting, and their whole point was, we're not going to go away and we're not going to give up. So
Yeah.
at that point, they kept on coming up with different rules. So I recommended to the attorney to simply, if you're looking to do something, right, get the best legal mind you have and come up with something that can't be beat in a court of law. If you really believe you can stop free speech, come up with something. And what those were the rules they came up with about not having a prop. Now the problem they had with that was that Joel Bassoff, he's an attorney, highly intelligent. He heard this and he walked up, and I believe he was expecting them to say the flag is not a prop. But if they would have said that, then the law they created was arbitrary, and therefore the law would not hold up in court. So
Yep.
they had to actually double down and say, yes, it was a prop.
It
And
was beautiful move. It was a beautiful move. It really was, because it got national attention on the issue, and now people all over the country are going, "What's wrong with this mayor?" Right? What kind of leadership is going on where you're calling the American flag a prop? Right?
Oh
It,
no,
it,
he's bad. I don't know. Did you see his apology?
no, God, no, I didn't, and I can only imagine. I'm sure I'll watch it after we're done here, but I can only imagine it was a like a forced apology, or or
No, the best part of it's a written apology by the mayor and by the president, council president, where they said it was never their intention to ban the flags, right? It was about a prop. And, this is about decorum and yada, yada, yada. But they never said that they're going to repeal the law that they passed. So the law still stands. They made it sound like they're patriotic. The mayor went out the next day and bought 20 flags to put in council chamber to say, we're good with the flag, you just can't hold one. So he still does not understand what the rights the Constitution gives all of us. And I'll tell you what, it's a shame because the school that he went to, which was J.P. Stevens High School,
hmm.
I went to that school. I learned that. Okay, so I don't know what they're teaching the new younger kids nowadays, but they definitely lost.
Well, I know they're dumbing them down, right? I was part of the public school product that was put out, and I see a lot of the product that they put out today, and I don't think it's getting better. I think if public school was a privately traded company, they would have went out of business probably in the 30s or 40s, because keeps getting worse.
Yeah, true.
So to be fair, I don't say that just out of off the hip. I've actually gone over the years, and I'll purchase high school textbooks, specifically history, because I like history. I'm a history buff. So I'll over a couple of years, I'll go by and I'll buy a textbook, and then I'll wait 5 or 10 years, I'll go buy another textbook just to see what they're teaching. And you can see the progression down the line of information being removed or even being replaced. Like, if you pick up a history textbook from a 12th grader today, you're not going to find anything about a republic. It's going to be all about a democracy, right? Democracy, we're a democracy, democracy, democracy. It's nothing about a republic, right? And even though it's in the Pledge of Allegiance and people have said it all their life, they still call it a democracy. And they don't understand the little detail. It's just a little detail, you know.
Oh, listen, I could tell you one thing, and that might be for another show, but I was on the board of education. And just a quick story. On the
Yeah.
board of education, we had a parent come in, furious. She wanted our heads because the summer reading book that was put out was done in a ebonics type of like language, and it was very graphic, horrific. It was almost like a porn novel. Okay, and she was shocked. So she came to the board, very upset. We went to the superintendent, who brought the assistant superintendent, who brought the group that picks the books. And we said, well, how do you pick books? And they go, well, we go by how many stars it has. So this book, must have had 10 stars.
I bet.
But nobody opened the book. So there's a lot of things in the schools I could tell you, that lead to certain things. And I tell people your classic one is Christopher Columbus.
Right.
Right. One day when my kids are now they're like 33 or so, but they came home and it was Columbus Day, right?
Hmm.
And they didn't understand why all the Italians were looking at Christopher Columbus for Columbus Day because he was Jewish and Spanish. And I said, what? And they go, well, he's Jewish and Spanish. I go, where did you get that? And they go, well, that's what they taught us in school. And when you Google it, it explains that at some point somebody theorized that he was Jewish and Spanish, but that's what's written. But my generation, he was Italian. That's why you had the Italian flags on Columbus Day. So we change our history, it seems, as we go.
Right, and it's not just and it's funny that you said that we changed the history because, and I can't remember the exact terminology, but it's something like a shared history, like a shared memory, but the change is there for all of us, right? And so I think that's what happens a lot of times, specifically with issues that people aren't or normally would care about. Like most people don't care about the founding of the country. They know the basics. The founding fathers, the Constitution, yada yada yada. But very few people have read any books from that era, be it history or political or anything of the nature. Like most people, when I talk online with people and they tell me, oh, I know a lot about the Constitution. I say, well, what have you read about it? Well, I've read the Constitution. Okay, well, what else? Well, I read the Federalist Papers one time. In high school, I read the Federalist Papers also. I said, well, is that all that you've read? I said, I've got a book that's literally 2 inches thick and that just talks about just the Constitution, everything surrounding the Constitution, um, and I've read, 10 other books. One of my favorites that's free on Google now is the Secret Proceedings and Debates of the Constitutional Convention, and it was written by one of the delegates to the Constitutional Convention. And not a lot of people realize this, but the convention was closed off to the citizens. It was private. No citizens were allowed in there. And the people that were taking notes, like Madison and the guy that wrote this book, I think he was from Maryland, but it could have been Virginia. I'm unsure really. But he was taking notes to bring back to the state legislature, which ended up becoming a book. But they weren't allowed to release their notes until 20 years after they had died. Isn't that amazing? So, like 30, 40 years after the Constitution, nobody still knew what was said in the convention because you had to wait for all the note takers to die and then, their notes to be released.
Right.
And yeah, so it's a fascinating time back then. I know a lot of people, go with the story that we've been given, but um, it's vastly, I think, different. And then we get what you have today with the mayor who, you know, uh, thinks that you can. It's cool to have the flag, you just can't hold the flag. You know what I mean? Like, I wonder what would happen if somebody came in there with a flag T-shirt. You know what
I,
he?
I have to tell you this: if somebody watched the last 3 years, I'll tell you what. If somebody were to do research, and they went back for the 4 years from the prior mayor, and you've seen how long the council meetings were, this mayor's council meetings are longer. And Christo was around for the other mayor. Okay, so it's not like he just showed up on the scene. But our meetings are so much longer because they keep on trying to circumvent his rights. And what they don't understand, and this is the part that just baffles me, is we have a board of education here in Edison too. Crystal will go to the board of education meeting sometimes. They allow him to speak. He says whatever he'd like to say, and they say thank you for your time and your input, and he leaves, and that's the end of it.
that that's it.
But these guys don't get it because it's almost like we need to beat him. But if we added up how many more hours we have spent, how much money we've spent in attorney fees to try and draft or ordinances to quell this, it's I
Christo's
mean,
Christo's beating you guys over the head with it.
my mayor and council, I believe, are from the future. There was a Moody movie. It was called Idiocracy. And
Yes.
yes, and my mayor and council president, they're like the people from the future. If you ever seen that movie.
I look underneath the podium and see if they're wearing Crocs. um, but yeah, absolutely. that's the big thing. The reason I got into this myself was because I saw that the law didn't apply equally to everybody. And I feel that that's a shame, right? Because we're supposedly a nation of laws. And so if the law is good enough for me to follow, it's good enough for any other man out there to follow, right? No man is greater than I, and I am no greater than any man. So if the law is great for me, and it really helps me, and it's all about my freedom, then it should be the same for every other man. Why is there these exemptions? Why is all the backdoor deals and the you know
Let me tell you how
you know
pathetic. I want you got to hear this. This tells you about the moral character here. When he first ran for election for mayor, his opponent received a phone call that Sam was stealing signs, lawn signs. Okay, so the police got called. They go down there. They asked the resident, and the resident said, "No, we never told him to take the sign down." And it was him and his uncle. And you're on one property, right? The property is 100 by 100. I mean, you're not far away from it.
right.
And the opponent's signs were in the trunk of his uncle's car, and his uncle took the fall for him. I mean, he got a small fine, maybe $50 or something like that. Um, but right here, this just tells you about the moral character that his own uncle he would throw under the bus for his own political career. That's how he started his career. You know what I mean? It's just pathetic.
Throwing the uncle under the bus. What a way to start off. And how are you going to recover from that? Like, and and I want to act surprised, but there was a mayor. I'm actually suing the city in Easley because, much like Cristo, that this town tried the same thing with me and one of my other buddies. And my buddy who lives in the area in Greenville there, he went to Easley, South Carolina, and he was doing a video, and the mayor was really rude to him, and the chief of police ended up throwing him out of the building. And so he calls me up down in Florida, and I'm like, hey, I'll come on up there. We'll go up there together. And so we go up in the city hall, and we're recording, and we're there. We're making some public record requests, and they are jamming the radio. I mean, it is loud, like a concert loud in there. And they thought, oh, well, we'll turn on this music real loud, and then they can't record or they can't post their video. I was like, hey, that don't bother me at all. I stood right by the speaker. I was singing along with it. I was like, man, this is great. I love this stuff. And so when they realized that that wasn't going to stop us, then they decided to go ahead and pass an ordinance. And I showed up at the second reading, and I told them, I said, listen, I said, this ordinance that you're trying to pass, because they tried to pass an ordinance that said you couldn't record in city owned buildings unconsenting people. And I told him, I said, listen, I said, this is going to violate my rights. I said, I'm letting you folks know before you vote on this that I will sue. I'm telling you, I'm going to sue you if you pass this because it's unconstitutional. And so they passed it. And the next day, before I left town, I went by and I dropped off notice of intent to sue to the attorney and the city council, and I left. And I think about, I don't know, 6, 8 months go by, and I go ahead and file the lawsuit, and it's been working its way through the court, and finally they got it, and they filed a motion to dismiss, and the judge says, no, no, he's got a claim. He's got a right to film. There's a claim there. We're going to go to court. And so at that point, now, even if I lose, I'm costing you tens of thousands of dollars,
Yes.
and I do all my own stuff. So it literally costs me nothing. $20 to mail it, $20 to certify mail it and print it at the library, $20 for a complaint, and that's it. And so I have no issues with that. And I tried to tell these people, I'm like, look, I'm not trying to be mean or nothing, and I realize some people abuse their rights, but we have to understand that, the founders knew that people would abuse their rights, but any abuse is outshadowed by the good that the right is going to do, right? Like, yeah, we have the right to own guns. There's a chance that there's a maniac that's going to get a gun. There's that chance. But the positive side of that, of people being able to defend themselves, and not only against the criminal, but against the tyrannical government, because I mean, let's be honest. I mean, that is what the Second Amendment there is for, is King George type stuff. I mean, we realize that. Um, and the same thing with, the right to free speech. I mean, the right to free speech isn't about speech that me and you agree with, right? Look at Westboro Baptist Church. I tell people, I said, I can't find one American that liked Westboro Baptist Church. I said, but I cannot find not one American who would not stand up for their right to free speech. Doesn't mean I have to like what they say, but if I restrict their speech, then what happens when someone doesn't like my speech? And even if my speech isn't offensive, what happens if somebody doesn't like it? Well, there's already precedent. You've already silenced people over here, so now you can silence me as well.
That's I'll tell you what. See, I tell people back when my parents were young, um, they would shut you down if you were to curse or anything of that nature. Um, that was just how it was. You respect it, or it was bad, and they shut you down. And then we had like a Lenny Bruce, George Carlin, that fought for the right to be able to say and for your free speech. And a lot of people defended it, and we opened up Pandora's box, and now we have to accept everything that comes out of it. Whether it's vulgar, whether it's offensive, it's a right that we're all given. You as a human being and an individual, you have a right not to listen. You have a right to walk away. So everybody has their own rights. Now, myself being on the council as an elected official, I don't have the right to walk away, right? I have a duty to sit there and listen to the public. And that's pretty much what I do. These others they don't want people being critical of the mayor. And I'll show you how pathetic of a human being he is. We have a Facebook page for the town and for the Edison Police Department. And the public used to comment, right? Like, hey, this is nice. You know what I mean? We had a fire. We saved everybody. With this flag, everybody started commenting in a negative term. I mean, 100% of the people. And they shut off comments. They don't want to hear that. So like today, they have a Christmas lighting that they're doing. You can't even comment on it, whether you like it or you don't like it or anything, because he doesn't want any negative publicity or press. And a lot of our papers here are slanted, is how I should put it. I mean, ads get placed, right? And where your ads come from, you're more inclined to go
Look
down
the
that
other
road.
way.
Right.
Right.
And the American people, I think, they have that feeling now that the press is owned. You know what I mean? It's not like an independent, press like we have when I was younger.
Right.
They would beat up Democrats and Republicans. Now you only have a Republican side or a Democratic side. You got to watch both and put them together,
Right. No, you really do, because yeah, that's how it is. And that's why a lot more people are on YouTube, and a lot more people are going into their city councils and looking and stuff, because this is a job that has been passed on for far too long, right? The media has been in the pocket for so long now, that I tell people, if you're watching the news, it's either stuff that's old that ain't news anymore, or it's stuff that they want you to believe that's not probably even happening. I said, you're not getting news from these high dollar TV hosts that are giving you more opinion than fact, and trying to sway you and confirm your confirmation bias. So a lot more people are on the independent kick. I think that's great. I think the free press being a right of every American, I think it's a civic duty. To me, it's a civic duty. Like, I have the ability to go out here and look and see what these people are doing. Not everybody can. Some people are bedridden, or some people have to work three jobs just to make ends meet and stuff like that. So not everybody can do it. But if you have the ability to go out and watch the government, then that is only going to help, right? Just like I tell people that when I started to learn the law and learning the law, I said this is something that's never hurt me, right? Like, it's never hurt me. And watching your government and making sure that everything is on par is never going to hurt the citizens. It's never going to hurt the community. And I know, especially like with people like your mayor, they feel like it's a personal attack. And I don't think really it's that, right? I think that,
I
um,
don't know about that.
you
It might be a personal attack. I think he has character flaws, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, yeah, no, right, absolutely. But I'm talking about, like, if I was to walk in there, someone who's never met him before or knew of anything that was going on, because if you watch my videos, most of the time when I walk in a building, people, act like I'm attacking them. Why are you recording me? You can't be here. Same thing with Christo, I'm sure, in a lot of instances, and they feel that it's a personal attack. But when everybody does better, when a few people do better, when our city does better, we all do better, right?
Sure.
So and I don't know why, maybe you can bring this up. I don't know how the weather is in New Jersey for growing food, but I'm interested in talking with my local officials about, instead of planting all these ornamental plants and bushes and trees and stuff, why aren't we investing in food? Instead of planting a tree, yeah, that looks nice, but why not plant an apple tree? So members of our community that maybe aren't doing so good on their way home from work one night can stop and pick an apple or two.
Well,
Um,
I'll tell you now. I'll give you a good thing here. In Edison, we have a community group called like Beautify Edison. Their goal is to do things of that nature. In fact, when they when I first got involved with them, they wanted to open up some community gardens like in our parks.
yeah.
Um, and they went to this mayor and he did authorize it and they did put those in. So when I tell you about all the bad things, the community garden was a good thing that
Right.
they did for the town. When we have parties here in Edison, I'd say no town has a party like Edison does. We probably spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on these parties. The issue I have with the parties is that there are people come from outside of Edison, to come here. So it's not really for the residents to partake in. Most of the people are from outside of our community. Um,
Right. Yeah, there'd have to be some kind of analysis there. Like, are the people coming in? Are they spending money in the hotels or the shops? Or are they just coming through for the party food that's free and then the roll out again?
yes.
Because we've all had friends like those, the fair weather friends. You win a couple 100,000 on the lottery. Next thing you know, everybody's your buddy. You're broke the next day. No one knows you.
That's where I think we are. Um,
Right.
so he has done some, like there were certain things he's done. It's the other things, and it's the attitude of like supremacy, not wanting to hear negative comments about his thoughts or ideas. He was going to do a community center, and he changed that into a youth field for the Jets for the Pop Warner
Hmm.
for the kids. Great idea. It's got a 10,000 square foot footprint. Okay, and the cost on this thing was supposed to be 5 million, then it went to like 10. Now it's at like 12 or something. And I just want you just to think about that. A 10,000 square foot footprint, right? And it cost us 12 million to build it. We have homes in Edison, I think, that are 8,000 square feet, right? And those homes are only like 3 million for the entire home. Um,
Right. Right. And there's probably, to be honest, there's probably a lot more material going into the homes because I'm thinking that 10,000 square foot's going to probably be a pretty open floor plan.
It is. It's a big open floor plan for the kids to practice in when it's
So,
raining,
so
too cold.
yes.
Yeah,
So what do you got? A floor, four walls, and a roof, and it's costing you $12 million? That's insane. That's ins-
and that's where he is.
yeah.
He typical. He wants to have his name. Um,
I'm wondering, Richard, if after, because I know he's probably going to get booted this election from the sound of it. I mean, hopefully the residents there can see through the malarkey. But I'm thinking maybe there's a position on the board of that company that's building that $12 million roof. So that might be something to keep our eye on after the election.
I wouldn't put it past him, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah.
He's not inclusive. So I was a councilman with the prior administration, right?
Mhm.
And typically the way the government works is the mayor proposes things and the council's in charge of the purse strings and how you spend it. So the mayor would bring in council, like if I was interested in the building, he would bring me in and say, hey, what are your thoughts? And I might tell him, try and go up or go out. I'd like to see this or see that. Right. So what you do is you build goodwill, and then at the end of the day, you put it up for a vote and you hope that you have 4 votes. This guy here has 4 votes. He doesn't even ask his people, you know, what's your input? He takes input from no one. They all vote yes. Doesn't matter what it is. I've spoken to them about it. They don't even know what it's like to actually be a real councilman and work with an administration and the mayor. You know what I mean? They're just told it's the mayor's vision and you're to vote on it. And they do that because they got, the mayor and the Democratic Party got them elected. Like they couldn't raise funds or get themselves elected. There's a difference between those council people and myself. Like
Right.
I went against the establishment, got elected, never really gave in, just worked with people. I got elected again. So there's just a difference with that, when somebody works for it and somebody gets handed it.
Of course. Absolutely. The same thing with money. I by trade I'm a server bartender, and I've done fine dining and country club and everything like that. And one of the biggest lessons I ever learned at the country club level was because the club that I worked at was old money, or excuse me, new money, and every year they would hold a tournament, and there would be other members from the other clubs in the area. And so you could tell the difference between somebody that had new money and had worked for it and somebody that had old money and had inherited it, or you know what I mean, like you could tell the difference from their attitude to even just the way they looked at people. It was insane, it really was, um to see it. But yeah.
That's how you have these different. So like in my mind, right, I look at that I'm elected to serve the will of the people. Okay, that's what I was brought up to believe. It's what I believed when I ran. Where our mayor, if you ask him, he'll call himself a leader. So in his mind, he's a leader. He's to decide what happens, and you are to follow. I don't know where he learned how to govern, to be quite honest with you. But it's a difference in the different types of politicians, I guess, that get elected.
Yeah. Yeah. You kind of roboted there for a minute. I was
Oh,
having some issues tonight. I don't understand why. I'm right by my modem, but for some reason it's not kicking me not kicking me the bandwidth I need. But so let's talk about what's next. Now I know that there's election coming up 2025. I,
that's
I do
correct.
believe I do believe you said that you would like to run. Is that correct? Are you gonna? be
Uh,
running?
yes, I'm going to be running for mayor in Edison. Um, I guess I really kind of decided I wanted to run maybe around June of this year was where I just said, you know what, enough is enough. I believe there's enough support. Now with this whole flag issue, to be quite honest, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to want to run because now with this flag, people are looking at like blood in the water, and the sharks are going to circle.
Right,
Um,
because they know he's not going to survive this. I mean, nobody in their right mind's going to that calls the flag a prop. I
no,
mean, that's just ridiculous.
no, and I'll be honest with you, if other people are in, I'm actually okay with that. You know what I mean? It's to me, we're going on the premise. Somebody loved. They said something the other day. We're going to get shirts that says, ABS, anybody but Sam. That's it.
Yeah, yeah, basically. So, and when is the election being held next year? What month?
So it starts in March and then it's over by June 3rd.
It's
Now
March.
that's
Okay.
right. Now that's the primary election. So people will tell you, yes, but you're not sworn in until January, which is correct. But in Edison, I believe we have not had a Republican mayor in probably over 50 years.
Wow.
So, that general election, pretty much once you win the primary, unless you're really bad, you pretty much win the general. So by June 3rd, we'll know, whether we're going to have 4 more years of this or he's
Somebody
done.
else is right. Somebody else is taking the reins.
Right.
Now, if you do run, I wanted to say that the gentleman I was telling you about when we were on the phone, James McLennis, he had a brilliant um, ideal for his campaign. And what this gentleman did was is he got a stencil with his name, McLennis for sheriff. And then
Okay.
he went around with a truck and a pressure washer, and he pressure washed
I know where you're
his
going.
all on public property, like because it's all dirty, sidewalks all dirty, and let me tell you, they hated that. His opponent, the sheriff, hated that. They would go around and and it's so funny. They would pressure wash the sidewalk just to get his name off. They wouldn't pressure wash anything else. None of the other dirty parts of the sidewalk. They would just pressure wash it to get his name off there. That's how bad they didn't like this guy. But brilliant guy, awesome campaign ideal, and it was economical. You didn't have to pay to print up all these signs. You just went around and pressure washed. And he invited a whole bunch of us from the First Amendment community, and we all ran, rode along with him and recorded it and put it up on his channel and our channel. And yeah, we had a good old time.
I love that idea. And you know why I love it? Um, I'm retired. So I have all day, every day. Uh,
Yeah,
I
no, it's a
I could
great
clean
idea.
up. I could definitely clean up a lot here.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, and then, like I said, it's all free, and people it gets the same message apart. Your name, the position you're running for,
Right.
and again, people see that and they say to themselves, "Wow, this guy's not creating pollution. He's obviously thinking outside of the box. Everybody else has got these signs. We all see these signs. They litter the place. It's an eyesore. This guy's actually cleaning up here and
Yeah.
and 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 not leaving trash everywhere. Like I said, I thought it was a brilliant move. Um, but
No.
so if you do run that might work well for you as well.
Yeah. No. I'm going to look into that after we get off.
Yeah, because like I said, it's economical, so it helps on the campaign finances. You can do it yourself, you and a couple of buddies. I'm sure anybody in the area supporting you would be happy to go out with you and do it, during a nice day. And yeah.
No. Hey, listen, that you'll see that in the news. That might go viral too.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, and that would be great, great coverage. But I would, definitely be interested in anything that I could do as far as helping a campaign for you, because I've talked with you, uh,
Right.
obviously, a few times, so I know what you're thinking and where you're coming from. So I would be fully behind a person like you. Now I know I can't vote. Obviously, I'm not a resident of Edison, New Jersey, but I can definitely get on the airwaves and let people know, hey, if you live in this area, if even if you don't live in this area, if you know someone, it's only 6 degrees of separation. I mean, I might know a lady down the street here whose mother lives in Edison, so yeah,
No,
I'd
I'll tell
definitely be
you,
interested in helping that out.
I have a sweatshirt. It has the one of the high schools from the town on it, and it's just it was my high school. I still live here. It's across the street from me. I'll go over there and buy sweatshirts still to this day. I go to Hawaii, New York City, and they go, "You're from Edison," because there's Edison has a population, I think, of like 110,000 people or something like that.
Mm.
Um, and it's been changing over all the years. There's so many people that have come in, stayed for a while, and then left and moved. Um, we are we are all over. Um, we've had there are a lot of famous people, or I'm not going to say famous people like Elon Musk, kind of famous, but
Right.
professional football players, an astronaut, attorney generals. I mean, there's actors.
A lot of movers and shakers have come through.
Yes, so yeah, there's a lot of people that have kind of been through here, and they have family here still. You know what I mean? So there is that whole tie where people still know people that are here. Um,
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I'm 100% for it because, like I said, from what I've seen, and just the few videos I've watched, specifically of Christos and the police chief the other day, and then finally that flag issue that happened recently. I'm thinking to myself, this is a crap show.
and you know what?
It's just
I want to be clear on one thing with the police too, because I know the police get a bad rap a lot of times, right?
yeah,
They're they're in something called a paramilitary organization, where they're required to follow laws, whether they're laws they're breaking or they're not. And like I'd recognize the officers doing what they've been ordered to do. Now, like the chief that we have here, he was never like this before. And the mayor is the head of public safety. So the mayor is his boss. So like it's kind of like blaming the car. I tell everybody, you can't blame the car for the accident. It's the driver. You know,
right.
like what's the difference between yesterday and today? And the only difference is, is the mayor. In fact, I don't think Christo was arrested. Maybe he was, but overall, he didn't have anywhere near the problems that he might have had. In fact, I should probably ask him one day when I see him if he was ever arrested before this mayor came in. And
Right.
he was doing his thing there for years.
Well, that's kind of like what it sounds to me is the mayor's saying, I'm getting credible threats, and he's telling his employee, the police chief, and the police chief's like, "Oh, credible threats. Yeah, well, we'll schedule a couple guys to follow you around." And I'd be interested to see if the mayor's passed along any of these credible threats to the police chief, because then it would, to me, it would be okay. Now there's something involved between the two of them. Now, if the the mayor's just saying, "Oh, I'm getting a credible threat," and the police chief's like, "Well, you're my boss, so if you say it's credible, I'll take you at your word, and I'll get you a couple guys." Then I would be like, okay, the police chief, yeah, you know what I mean. But if he's getting a video of a gun shooting a like button, and he shows
Right.
that to the police chief, and the police chief goes, "Oh yeah, that's credible," then I'd be like, okay, well, police chief, I think you're involved in the idiocracy going on there. Then,
Right.
so. I think, of course, I always like to withhold judgment until I have all the facts. So maybe once the facts of that come out, then I'll be able to make a better decision. But um, yeah, I don't know. And I know it's got to be heartbreaking to be in the middle of it because we want to get stuff done, right? We want to move forward, not just ourselves, but as a society, right? It seems like everything that we heard when we were growing up, even you're a little older than me, but the sci-fi and where we're supposed to be as a species and humanity, and we're looking around going, yeah, we're not there yet. Well, the
Oh,
flying car was 20 years ago. I'm I'm still getting like 3 miles to the gallon in my truck.
yeah.
So when's all the fun start? So yeah, I think to me that's what's more important is working together to advance in some way, shape, or form, be it a community, be it a school board or a school, or all the way up the line. And I think really we've been stagnating a lot in the country. Now, of course, we have a few geniuses here and there, and they invent stuff, and we all get to celebrate, their technology and their advances and stuff like that. But for the majority of the people, it's stagnation. It's slaving away to pay more and more bills while getting less and less services. And it's like the potato chip bag every year. You go and you buy a potato chip bag on January 1st every year, and every year you cost you a couple cents more, and there's a few chips less. And I feel that that's what's been happening with government over the last 20 or 30 years. We pay a little bit more money, and we're kind of getting a few less chips.
Well,
You
but
know,
you know what it is? Like you see, so I worked a whole career. I owned a construction company in Manhattan for like 30 something years. I mean, I did work for Sony, Every Bank, Mount Sinai, Bryant Park, Central Park. Had a great life.
nice.
And I retired around 52 or something like that, and got bored, and then wanted to make a difference, and I ran for office. Um, like just running for office and looking at funding formulas, like with the state, I think I got Edison about 100 and maybe $70 million in additional money over the last 7 years.
Wow.
Well, because they made a mistake in the formula. No one looked at it in 20 years. But where this mayor, I think the first time he ran for office, he was like 16 years old. His goal in life was to be an elected official, to feel important, not to do good for the people. I'm almost shying away from anybody that's young and wants to be involved in politics. I think you have to go out there, you have to live in the world, get experiences so that you have some sort of real life judgment. Because when I look at him, I don't know if it's a character flaw that he has, or if what it is just he just lacks the experience of not really having a job ever. You know what I mean? Not
It,
having.
it could be a combination of both, though, really.
It could very well be. You know, I don't know him that well. I just know that this was his whole career. I mean, he did work for a company. The company that he worked for had so many banking violations. The government had to shut him down. And then as they got shut down, he became mayor. So his break in, I think, in the corporate world was in a company that was defunct and breaking laws to begin with. And then this is what we've inherited for our mayor, someone that's breaking the Constitution.
Sure, sure. Because And I'm guaranteeing you, 99.9%. I'm pretty sure that if you ask the gentleman, he's lacking understanding of the Constitution, of the rights, of the obligations of him as an employee of the public, um, all around. And it's because most people are. Unfortunately, it's because most people are. Most people don't care. They want to do the minimum to get by in school,
Right.
and then come home and play and get on the Xbox, or, and I'm sitting here with a phone, and I'm thinking to myself, I have in my hand the Library of Alexandria, the Library of
Yes.
Congress. I have more information available to me in my hand now than any other human on the planet in any other time period. And I'm playing Candy Crush. you know?
I mean, I do appreciate the technology. Trust me. When I grew up, we had a map, and you'd have the map on the driver's seat, and you don't know how far the turn is, and you have to stay alert. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, and then sometimes you're holding it up while you're trying to drive, and you're looking and oh yeah. No, yeah. I used to love navigating like that, and fly by the seat, I guess you could say, kind of navigating. Um, but yeah, we went out, we played, we got to know, the neighbors and people around us, and now it's more people are shut in. They go to work, even if they go to work. A lot of times now anymore, you're just staying at home, working from home, shopping from home on Amazon. Having you're not going out and meeting people like significant others. You're swiping left or you're swiping right, and everything's being done now inside the house, and people don't know their neighbors anymore, and it's just so disconnected. And people ain't coming to the city council meetings and addressing the issues. They're just like, oh well, we voted this guy in, and he'll fix all our problems, and we're just sit here watching the boob tube, and we'll let those guys handle it, and I'm sure everything will work out fine.
Well, you know where people get frustrated? So we do have residents. I'll call them regulars. They've been coming for 20 something years. And we have one gentleman in particular, and he came and he asked the BA a very simple question. And she said, "Listen, I don't have the answer, but I'll get it to you." Fair enough, right?
Yeah.
2 weeks go by, you have another meeting. The guy gets up, he asks the same question, and he reminds her that she didn't get him the information. And she apologizes and says, "Okay, I'll get you the information." 2 weeks later, he comes back. Now it's like a month and a half, right? So he asked the question. It's a month and a half later, and they gave him the wrong answer to a different question. So the guy got so frustrated, and he came up and he was angry at the council. And I told him, I said, I don't want to burst your bubble, but in our form of government, the council can only create laws and approve spending. How the roads get fixed, who's fixing it, all of that is all under the umbrella of the mayor. And he goes, "So
Right.
you're telling me I've been coming here for 20 years complaining to you guys, and you guys can't actually do anything?" And I said, "Well, yes, you're 100% correct, except the mayor is watching on the camera. So when we had good mayors, they would listen to you and they would take care of your problems. Unfortunately, with the mayor that we have, I think the lights off."
Yeah, somebody's watching, but nobody's home.
you know?
All
Yeah,
right.
he's classic.
So, okay, so we talked about the flag and the prop issue, and we've talked about some of the other stuff going on. Is there anything else that you'd like to touch on before we get out of here? Something, I know you said you had a list of like some 40 different issues. Is there something that really needs looked at or talked about to bring
You
to
know
the
what?
public's attention?
I'm gonna have somebody send me the list, right? Because I had somebody else generated the list. Because at one point I said we have so many issues. Is anybody keeping track of this? And one person, raised their hand. I'm like, yeah, we got a whole list. I'm like, wow, somebody's actually been doing this. And these aren't like political people. These are just regular residents, that are doing this. So I'm going to get a copy of that, and I'm going to say I'll send it to your email.
Yeah,
And
absolutely, and I'll post it on my community tab so that way everybody's informed of the issues that need to be addressed.
right? I mean, we could take a look at it. You can go, these aren't um, like Fox News called me, and they said, how are things going in Edison, right? And I said, well, what do you want to know? They go, well, what's wrong there? I said, well, the mayor's sexual assault, the pay to play, him taking police on a political vacation. And she starts laughing. And she goes, well, wasn't there an issue with the flag? And I said, oh, absolutely. Oh, is that all that you want? Okay, just the flag. Okay, we can deal with that today. You know,
Yeah, yeah, they don't want to ruffle any feathers. They want to talk about something that's already been covered and is nice. We don't want to get into the deep issues, right? Because then we won't get the interviews and like you said, the advertisement spots and stuff like that. It's
but I will tell you this though. See, the flag turned out good, and I'll tell you why. Fox News is what I would say is Republican leaning. Okay,
mhm.
Edison with the flag has been Democratic for 50 years. So for them, this really fit into that narrative of they got a bunch of crazy Democrats. Unfortunately, I have to agree that right, the four council people in the mayor are crazy Democrats. But you know, there are good Democrats too. I always say both sides. We all have good and we all got bad, and if the good just stand up for the good, we'd all be good.
Right, right, absolutely. Yeah, and I told you, and I know everybody watching this already knows that I'm not political. I get my rights violated by both sides of the aisle whenever I go out to hold government accountable. So I don't see any difference there. And my biggest measuring stick is the United States debt, and I'm not talking about the debt to GDP because we obviously know they fudged the GDP numbers, but the actual debt. And the debt has risen under every president for the last 100 years. I think in the last 100 years, we've not borrowed money in 4 of those years, and we've only paid back money in 2 of those years. So in 96 years, we borrowed money every year. And even when Clinton was in office, they made a big deal about it. But if you look at the actual debt and not the debt to GDP ratio, even Clinton in his best year still borrowed $18 billion. Now, granted, that was the lowest that any president had borrowed in a long time, but they still borrowed money. And when a politician at that national level is tries to come and talk to me, my first thing is it's about finances. And as far as I could see, there's no way that these many people could be financially inept unless it was supposed to be that way. I tell people, I said, imagine if your grandfather, your father, and yourself spent more money than you earned every year. Does that make sense?
There's a lot of the public they don't know. Another good one I get asked people is in our 250 years of being here, how many years were we not in a war or a conflict, or how many years were there? And people will go, oh, I don't know, 100, 150 years. We had no wars. And I'm like, no, it's like 10 years or something. It's some ridiculously small amount.
It really is. When you think of all the conflicts, see, because they think of the wars, so they're thinking of the Revolution, the Civil War, the World War I, World War II. A lot of them probably ain't even putting Korea or Vietnam or any of that in there, and forget about like Panama and all this other stuff. But one of the guys that I enjoy hearing about is Smedley Butler, the Marine Corps general. He's one of the most decorated Marine Corps guys in the history. I think he's like number two of all the Marine Corps ever. Is highly decorated, and he was a general, General Smedley Butler. As a matter of fact, there was supposedly a proven conspiracy where some of the elite people in the government tried to hire Smedley to to overthrow the government, and that was supposedly confirmed. I don't know. I haven't looked into that, but um, he wrote a book that was called "War is a Racket." And he basically went through because he was in the first half of the 20th century in the early 1900s up to the 1940s, 50s, and stuff like that. So he was in Central South America and everything, and he pointed out in his book, we went to this country for sugar. We went to this country for this, and he's like, he pointed out this was why we were here. This was the corporation that we were fighting for here, and this is what we won, and then he laid it out. War is a racket. And but yeah, one of the most decorated Marines ever, and highly respected gentleman. Uh, but like you, sir, he told it straightforward how it is, So
Yeah, no. Listen, I'm going to put together a list, send it to you. I think if we look at it, we can probably agree. You might laugh at some, but they are all true. Nothing here is a conspiracy. I have documentation on things. I went to the attorney general a couple times on all of this. Um,
well,
you,
even if they're small, I think still, Richard, that they probably somebody cares about them somewhere, right? Or they probably wouldn't have even made the list. There's somebody out there that says, hey, this needs to be addressed, maybe. Eh, but maybe we're like, yeah, that's not really as important as, let's say the sexual assault, obviously, right? That's number one, right? I mean, we got to prioritize here a little bit, but I still think even little complaints, deserve maybe a little looking at. And again, we might decide, hey, this isn't really, worth the city's time or whatever, or,
no, like
prosecuting time or whatever.
there's like a bunch of little small ones, right? Probably like 20 that when you hear them, you're going, well, that's kind of small, superficial in a way. But when you hear all 20, you're going, man, this guy's got a character flaw. You know what I mean? It's
Right. They keep piling up. Yeah. They keep
yeah,
piling up.
you're going right. There's an issue here with how he handles things.
Yeah.
Everything is about him. I really just I have no clue like how he was brought up. The only thing I know is that he loves a movie called Games of Thrones. Because he would quote things when he was running, like "We're going to have the red wedding." So to his inside people, I said, "You tell Joffrey that the North is coming." And he doesn't like when I tell his little jokes. You know what I mean? When you start telling me about something, I watch it just to figure out what you were talking about. But yeah, he's got some things going on. I'm pretty sure you'll be interested in quite a few of them.
All right. Yeah. So, okay. So, yeah, we've covered a lot of stuff. If there's nothing left, we're at an hour and 20 minutes,
Okay.
which is pretty good. I'll have, a few minutes edited out when I moved into the room here. But other than that, I think it's a pretty solid total all along. Um, and we talked about a lot of the things that I had seen that I had wanted to address, and it seems like you addressed a lot of the stuff that you wanted to. Again, we'll see that list, and maybe we'll talk more on the phone, and maybe whittle it down, and maybe get another little 20 or 30-minute conversation, and maybe address some of these other issues, and see where we're going from there, maybe closer to the election.
No, listen, I appreciate, well, I appreciate you giving me this opportunity.
Of
Um,
course.
Here, I've watched shows, I watch reels. I probably do that when I do TV anymore. But I had no clue how that happens and transpires, and it's above my pay grade. I can do Excel and Word. That's about my extent. If you didn't send me the link, I would never have been able to get here. you know,
Yeah. Well, that's true of anybody, Richard. If I don't send them the link, if I keep it to myself, no one would come on. So yeah. Um, but yeah, I appreciate you coming on. As you know, Sam is a mutual person that we know, and she's definitely helped me. To find people to talk with about this kind of stuff, because
yes, he did.
again, yeah, this is what I'm passionate about, and I just met her up in Philly, and heard her story, and my subscribers saw me and her went there to the city hall, and tried to get her an appointment to talk with them. Of course, after we had left and the camera was shut off, they called her back and canceled the appointment. But it's amazing how they treat people. Um, and again, like I told you, this isn't something that's stricken only in Edison or only in New Jersey or only in the Northeast.
Right.
This stuff is happening everywhere, and it's just like you said, it's flagrant. It's in your face. Gosh, I can't even rattle off. I mean, we'd spend till Christmas rattling off the stories I've heard and know and have investigated personally. Um, but I think with more and more citizens waking up to the fact that the media is not there to inform you; they're there to rake in advertising dollars. Um,
Well,
and people see the issues that we have. Like, I just had a video. I want to say it was last night or yesterday, but it was in Hazard, Kentucky, of all places. So my thumbnail's Boss Hog. And the chief of police there arrested a guy like me and Christo. The gentleman had gone into the police department, into the public lobby, and he was making a public records request.
okay.
And yeah, and they said, "Well, are you recording us?" And he says, "Yeah, I'm recording you." And well, you're not allowed to do that. And I think I'm allowed to do that. It's a public lobby. I think I'm allowed to be here and recording my interaction. And sure enough, the chief of police came out and arrested him. And, now the charges are dropped, and the guy's, suing the department. And it's like, why don't people just allow people to exercise their rights? Like, we understand that the camera might catch something that you don't want to be seen, but the liability that is being pushed off onto the citizens because you might get caught, with your hair not did, or whatever reason. Because I mean, I'm going to be honest. I've done over 2,000 videos. I've never walked into a city hall and caught a secretary with her hand inside the cash register stuffing money into her purse, right? So I'm we know I'm not going to catch that kind of activity on there. So why are you afraid of the camera? You're not really doing anything, right? Like, I'm not really catching you in corruption right now. Why are you throwing me out? That's when it starts ringing. I'm like, what are you trying to hide? Obviously, I need to come back here 15 times and investigate you. And and I do that, Richard. And a long-standing joke that I've had with my subscribers that I tell them is that I'm like an STD, and the cities don't have enough penicillin. And I tell them, I say, I'm going to be alive another 20, maybe 30 years. I'll keep coming back and keep coming back. Sooner or later, you're gonna have to comply. It's just the way it is. I'll come back, and like you saw with Christo and his buddies, I have my friends come with me, and now we've got
Yes.
20 people here, and now we're gonna make it to where you have to address this issue, right? And we're doing the same thing in the courts right now. There's some miscommunication about whether filming in a public area like the police station lobby is a legal activity. So we're just slamming the courts with lawsuits now. Sooner or later, you're going to answer this question. You're going to tell us if it's legal or if it's not legal. We're going to clarify it. That way, there's no more issues, right? Because
Well, that's what the problem is. Right.
yeah,
I think it really needs to get litigated to a point where there's case law. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Once that case law is there, like I'll be honest with you, I always heard you couldn't curse in council meetings until Christo came, and he cited a school board meeting case law, and I read it, and it was right. You could say whatever you, as long as you weren't threatening. So if you
right,
said it in this tone, you could say whatever. You could talk gibberish if you wanted, and it's okay.
right,
Um, was the other right? That was the other thing, was we were always told it had to pertain to like the city council, or it had to pertain to the school. It doesn't. It's the public's right to comment. There's nothing in there that tells you what they have to comment on.
right. Yeah. Can you imagine if it was in there that you could only comment good things?
Right.
Oh, Mayor, I love your hair. So yeah, unfortunately, if people don't stand up, though, I could honestly see it going, that way, because people don't understand that tyranny, it doesn't happen overnight. We don't just wake up tomorrow and it's tyranny, right? It's a little
No.
bit. It's a chip at a time, and it's done over time. And ever since I became a father, um, I've said to myself, what kind of society am I going to leave my kids? Right? Am I going to leave a society to my kids where she's walking down the street, doing a video of herself? They like to do those musically videos where they dance or whatever, but this is what she's into. So do I want her walking down the road and having a policeman pull up to her because some lady down the road thought she was video recording her house, and that was suspicious? And I mean, I've seen a lot of different videos. One was really good. There was a kid that was doing exactly that, a young boy. He was doing exactly that, and the cops came up to him and they were like, "Oh, you're suspicious, and you were videotaping her house." It's like, "No, I was just doing my musically whatever, blah blah blah." And you got ID, and the kid's like, "Heck no, I don't. You ain't getting my ID. I know the law." And this kid was like 15 or 16 years old, and those cops got so mad, and they're like, they put him in the back of their car, and they're like, "We're gonna take you, to your dad." And they drove him down the road to his dad. Here comes his dad outside the house with his phone video recording, and he's like, "What are you doing?" And the cops are like, "Oh, like father, like son." It was so funny. But yeah, I don't want that kind of society for my kids, to where nobody understands their rights, nobody knows their rights, and they're constantly being violated, or they're constantly violating my daughter's rights. Um, and God, please don't even get me started on excessive force. I mean, I would just go crazy if something like that happened to one of my kids. And
See, I grew up with excessive force.
yeah, so did I. I called her my mom.
Well, like when I was younger, when you got pulled over, you just yes sir and no sir and sat quiet, so you could just get at. You didn't want to be interactive with law enforcement because it never ever went well. There
No,
were no
and
cameras. You
there
went
were
to
no cameras. Yeah,
you go to court, and the judge would say, "Well, I don't know you, but I do know the police officer, so therefore I'm going to side with his version." And you're going, "Yeah, but that wasn't what happened." And
no,
and there was nothing, there's nothing you could really do. Now with the cameras, it's a good thing. And even if you were to look in Edison, and you see Christo, sometimes he will yell at the police and this and that. And I got to tell you, like, our officers are really good. They'll just hold their jacket and they just let him go and do his thing. And they're really not confrontational for the most part. He did come across one of our older guys at one point, and that guy threw him on the ground, handcuffed him, took him away. And I'm like, we're back in the '80s. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
I get it. Um,
right.
I mean, maybe Christo, maybe he's gonna go. Listen, I guess like 50 and over, I'll be a little quieter, maybe because they didn't get the memo on de-escalation, or
Yeah,
But the
there
younger
was
guys,
actually
a lot better.
there was actually a guy. I don't mean to interrupt you, but you brought it up and it made me think of it real quick. But one of the other guys in our community, Long Island Audit, he did a audit in Danbury, Connecticut, and he got the body cam footage from the police officers there. And one officer told the other officer, if it was 20 years ago, he'd be dead with his teeth missing.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
what, 20 years ago, he'd be dead with his teeth missing. I was like, he ain't lying. That's
No.
what would have happened to you 20 years ago with no, because and and even today, the way the court system works is that there's always a presumption of truth coming from the government. So it doesn't matter who you are. You could be a doctor, you could be a lawyer, you could be a movie star. It doesn't matter. If you're going in court against the government already has an ace in the hole, meaning that the court is already going to believe anything that the government says to be truthful, right? It's just the way the court works. So unless you have evidence of it otherwise, like you said, it's a losing position, and a lot of people have lost. And even today, even with video evidence, we still lose cases we should win. And they have to go to the appeals court and go through it that way. But uh, I don't know.
I,
I can only hope for gentlemen like you to take the reins of the local and then move on up, because I think we start local and then move on up, because we gotta, I guess you could say, clean our own yard before we can help people clean up their yard.
that's how I got started. Yes.
Yeah.
Started on the school board, and still here, and our school board's doing great. Um, they've been able to seek to get funding. They're putting additions on, doing some great work in the school board. Our township now is just that's just went down the tubes here now. But yeah, hopefully by June 3rd, our problems will be over.
Well, not over, but on the way to being solved, at least.
He destroyed it in 3 years. I think we can bring it back in 6. It's a
Sure.
matter of like a lot of these laws that got passed, you repeal them.
Oh,
You
absolutely.
you repeal them. They're done. You come back to where you were before. And if you want to modify something at that point, you can always modify it.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah, absolutely. You know what I say? Less laws is better. Less government's better. The least amount is better. I mean, there's obviously some things that the government has to do. We all know this, but
so,
the least amount is possible. I think government should get out a lot of businesses, marriage for one. Just a lot of businesses that they're in that I don't think they should really be putting their little fat fingers in there. And I've read sociology and anthropology, so I understand about the family unit and the basic building blocks of society, and why the government wants to regulate the family unit. But I don't see ever any good coming out of it. I mean, I think a good percentage of the kids that go through CPS are found later in the human, sex trafficking trade um, thing. So there's a lot to be said about that. So,
mm,
but that's another conversation for
yeah,
another day. And I want to thank you first and foremost for your time. I appreciate it. I know you're a busy man. You got lots of stuff to do. You're ramping up for a campaign of
yeah. Getting
which
started.
whatever we can do to help here. Let us know. We'll be more than happy. I'm sure I have subscribers that are in Jersey that are going to see this video, and so they'll, I'm sure, be available to help freedom win. Because that's what we're looking at. Um, and then, yeah, so hopefully a long, illustrious career of making things right again. You know,
Well, listen, I know I have another 4 years in me.
there you go. There you go. So,
Doing
and
four at a time. You know?
there you go. Yeah, and get to me later. Let me know. I'll let you know how I'm feeling later. But yeah, as of right now, you're good to go. So
Yep.
that's what we like to hear. But and again, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. I look forward to seeing more council meeting videos. Hopefully, going in the right direction. Um, but I always smile when I hear you start to talk because I know the truth and freedom are coming rolling, and people ain't liking it.
No, they're not. They can't even sit in their chair. You know?
No, no, but yeah, and I think we're gonna try to get this together and get this out by tomorrow night. So we'll have this up,
Okay.
should be up on my channel by tomorrow night. I'll text you the link to the video. I might even do it as a premiere so that way I can chat on the side chat while the video's playing in case people have any questions or something. So you're more than welcome also to when I give you the link, it'll you'll pop it up. It'll look just like our screen here, and on the right, it'll have the chat box. I don't know if you have
Okay.
a YouTube account or not, but if you do have a YouTube account, you can then chat in the chat. If, people have questions, or if you see something that the chat asks that you want to address or something, or you could just
Okay.
text me and I'll put it in the chat. Whatever whatever you prefer.
I'll try it. I've never commented on you. I do watch YouTube, but I've never
Yeah,
commented. They tell me to hit the like button. I'm not really getting what that's about, but
well, there's like there's a little
and a
thumb
little
up
thumbs
and,
up.
and a
Yes.
thumb down right
Yes.
below the video. So if you like the video, you give it a thumbs up, and that helps the video gain more traction, right?
Okay.
So the more interaction that people have with the video, like if we comment on it, if we leave a like, then YouTube says, hey, people are liking this video, I'm going to push it to a wider audience, and then it'll get seen by more people.
See, I thought
So
it went by like because when I seen it, if I watched the video, then obviously I liked the video. If I clicked on it and I watched, 30 seconds, well, then I didn't like the video. Like I thought it was an algorithm that just figured itself out. I guess AI isn't there yet.
well, I mean, yeah, they track all that stuff too, like as far as your watch time, 30 seconds or whatever. So like it'll give me an average. It'll tell me like how many people watch my video, the average watch time. They'll even tell you like when the most watch time period of your video is. So that way you can like tweak your videos, and I'm not about all that. I'm not fancy schmancy. I find the truth and I put it on the screen, and then people can see it and they make their own judgments. I don't like to put my opinion on it or anything like that. This is what it is. Do what you want with it, and I'm a big proponent of silent audits as well. So I'll go out and I'll film, and then if people ask me questions, I'll just stay silent. The cops come ask me for ID, I just not say anything. It's like this isn't about me. This is this is the video. This is what people see. You guys act a fool, or you act prim and proper like gentlemen and ladies. That's what's going to be shown. Because I don't want people being like, oh, he baited them, and he's just being confrontational and argumentative. I'm like, I didn't say nothing. I'm just here with a camera. I could be like, you remember those old Indians they had at the tobacco shop that would just stand
Right.
there? That's what I'm like. I'm just like an Indian there with my camera, just standing there. So can't be confrontational or nothing. But yeah, it's been a wild ride. I could tell you that much. My wife will agree. She's she's weary sometimes of the retaliation, whatever could come of it. But um, some things in life are just important that they have to be taken care of. And when you got kids, you want to assure them that you're leaving them the best off that they can be, and not about money, um, but as far as like society and the health of society. Um, because we've raised our kids to be good kids, intelligent kids. They'll find their own way. They'll find their own way. There's no issue with that. But I mean, even having good kids, if society is sick, I mean, it's not going to be good. You know.
No, they're gonna have a different world to navigate.
Yep. Yep. So we gotta put them with that brain power. That way they can problem solve these new situations that arise, and not get caught under the wheels there. But all right, my friend, it's an hour and 40 minutes, and I think
Okay.
we'll sign off here. It's been a pleasure talking with you again. We had a great conversation the other day, but been another pleasure talking with you. So you have my number, you have my email. Feel free to reach out anytime. If you have something that you want to pass along that you want to broadcast, let me know. I'll be happy
Okay.
to put that out. And as the campaign heats up, I know you said if some other people jump in. I don't know if are you still gonna run even if other people jump in, or if other people jump in, are you gonna bow out and let them
You,
go, or
you know
does
what?
it depend on who runs?
Yes, like I'll tell you this. I believe that I'll be in either case. I'll be in.
Okay.
Um, but it does depend on who enters.
Right,
Um,
because if it's Sam's, uncle and brother and stuff, and Sam, then you're probably still going to want to enter, right? Because if it's not Sam, if it's his uncle, it's the same thing.
yes, that's right. Like if it's more people that are, which I'll call my people, or the ones that are in tune to
We
me,
the people. Yep, we the people.
then that splits up that vote. So I'm not looking to split up a vote. Um, I'm definitely going to work on splitting up Sam's vote, though. But
Right.
so that's how I know there's going to be more people in the race. But right, it depends. It's kind of like playing chess. Is how elections are. It's just not one on one. A lot of our elections here are won because people call them a spoiler. Um, I call it strategy. You know what I mean? You have somebody that enters, they take votes away, and then someone else actually wins.
Yeah.
And that happens here like all the time. Um, but that's part of the campaign promise, process that we have here.
All
So
right.
yeah, I appreciate
Well,
it.
yeah. Keep me informed. I'd like to, hear about it as it goes along. And like I said, any help we can give, we'll be more than happy to.
I definitely will.
All
All
right.
right. Thanks a
Well,
lot.
thank you, sir. And give me a second and